I just wanted to sort of start off with talking a little bit about the sort of the influences on your. We're talking about obviously through an animation lens, because I know that kind of some of the Harryhausen films and stuff made a kind of an impact on you. Can you just tell us a little bit about some of those films?
Well, I mean, he obviously had an impact on a lot of filmmakers, is probably from your summer. But it was the first. I remember seeing Jason and the Argonauts was the first film I remember in a cinematic experience. I was at the Catalina Theater off the coast of California. And this old theater looked like a seashell, so it was like a Jason and the Argonauts setting. And when I first saw that movie, it blew me away. And I think that's when I just fell in love with stop motion and you know, knew the name of Ray Harryhausen before I knew any actors' names or any other directors' names. It's like his work had a major impact on me.
And you were raised in California, so presumably there was no shortage of cinemas that you could go and watch stuff on. Were you watching stuff on the big screen, or were you watching it at home?
Oh no, there was no, you know, just TV. No, those were big screen events. I mean, you know, all those Jason the Argonauts, 1 Million Years BC, all the. You know, all of those works were seen on the big screen, which was so beautiful. And I mean, like I said, seeing it on the big screen meant everything. I remember Jason the Argonauts, the giant statue, Talos, right? And you know, it had such an amazing sense of scale and impact. And I remember I went to Ray Harryhausen's house and I saw the Talos puppet. It was like about this big. It was all rotting away. It was so beautiful, and what he achieved was something that small with pretty, I mean, for that time sophisticated, but pretty simplistic armatures. It was incredible to see that.
And you've talked about other influences like people like Zeman or Starobin or other people. When did you become aware of some of those kind of further afield kind of names?
Yeah, I mean, some of that, the Carol Zeman stuff was on TV. There was a funny film. It was almost like a making of. A film, it was like from the Burbank Library, but it showed like Carol Zeman doing his kind of behind the scenes work. Right. And that, you know, when you go on an animation set, especially stop motion animation, it's so beautiful. I mean, you've been on those kind of sets. It's almost more magical than the film sometimes, because just the process of it and the sort of the puppets and the sets, you feel like a giant walking down the street, or, you know, in this looking down on everything and looking through weird sort of perspectives, and it's a very beautiful process.
Which was the first set you visited? Can you remember? Because obviously, your own was the first one.
I think that it's just that was the first time I'd really.
Because often
I did like Vincent, but those sets were like this size, you know.
Because a lot of them they're like massive warehouses, and you go and magic happens by what you bring to them.
Yeah, I mean, puppets have gotten bigger sometimes since the Ray Harryhausen days, so sets go accordingly.
And when you were a child, you were making your own films, weren't you? I mean, I'm saying that very grandly, you know, but
my own films. Yes, the brain was made out of clay with pipe cleaners fighting off a pair of pliers. Yes, you've all seen that one, haven't you?
But there are quite, but there's quite a lot of them, and some of them still exist and are used.
I'm not sure that one does, but yeah, no. So yeah, I mean, and me and my friends, we used to take like model kits and like cavemen, and they'd have two sets of legs, so we'd alternate them, and it was so bad, and we got so bored that we ended up going from stop motion to just pouring water on the sets to make a huge flood, and that turned to live action. So.
And you were using like a Super 8 camera for this, were you? Yeah. And we would, you know, I guess one thing about sort of Super 8 at that time is not like when you're filming digital now and you get to see everything happening live.
Oh no!
You have to then send it away.
No, you have to send it to PhotoChem and then pull up in your car, hand it off, come back a few days later, take it out, take it home, and see how bad it was. You know, yeah. But it was exciting. You know, it was kind of waiting to see. There's something very exciting about that process. Waiting a few days.
And one of the things I guess about being there and being California at that time was that CalArts, which now we take for granted as just being, you know, the place to go, that has been, you know, so many alumni, including yourself. But I mean, everybody from kind of John Lasseter and Brad Bird and you know, Musker and Clements and you know, everybody, Henry Selick. But at that time, it was still pretty early days for CalArts, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, those guys like John, they were the first. I was in the second year of the Disney animation program, and it was lucky because, you know, they were giving away scholarships because all the old animators were sort of dying off, and so they didn't have any new animators. So this was meant to kind of train new animators for Disney, and you know, and or we spent time doing that, or searching for Walt's frozen body downstairs at CalArts. We probably spent more time doing that than doing it.
With any success?
No, got close a few times.
And I think it's fair to say, although clearly you were very talented when it came to sort of, to drawing and your sort of artistic side, but it didn't necessarily.
Not foxes, no.
But well,
Can't say.
it's the fox and the
that's
hound.
that's why I got thrown out of that film, which is good because my foxes look really bad. They look like they had like some kind of disease or been hit by a car or something. So, but I was lucky for that.
So the roadkill foxes didn't make Fox and the Hound in the end, the final cut.
No, I did some in betweening. I worked with a great animator who really helped support me, Glenn Keane, and he sort of took me under his wing and tried to sweep me, keep me going without, me getting fired at that.
But they must have recognized talent, even though you didn't fit into a conventional Disney mold. And it's a very particular look, that kind of Disney look, isn't it? But they obviously recognise the talent. Like, they financed those short films you made, and you did some Black Cauldron work.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing was, the company at the time was in a very weird transitional stage. They were doing things like Fox and the Hound, or it was in a very transitional stage. So we were trying new things, but getting quite afraid of them. So, I got to be able to sit in a room for a year drawing things for Black Cauldron, none of which was in the film or close to it. And then they sort of offered me design things to think about doing this film or that film. Lots of projects that they were working on that never got done. But that also gave me the opportunity. They wanted to do like a stop motion film, so they gave me a little bit money, and I did Vincent. So and
that became a kind of calling card for you to that.
Well, a little bit, yeah, because I mean it was, I sent it to Vincent Price, and he offered to narrate it, which gave it a little bit of clout and that sort of thing. And it was cheap anyway, so nobody knew there was money being spent anywhere. And so I was it was a strange time because I felt very much like in a almost like a weird artistic prison, but at the same time I got to really draw and do things, and oftentimes I just do my own thing. And that's what I think where Nightmare started, was I was just drawing things. I mean, they didn't even know what I was doing most of the time.
And is it fair enough to say, and I might be completely wrong in this, that one of the main kind of ways you would communicate kind of as when you were growing up was through your art and through your cartoons and films?
Yeah, I wasn't very talkative, so I expressed myself and tried to other people just with drawing. I mean, I wasn't really that good either. I mean, I was like most kids, just draw, and but it helped me to communicate in some form. And
I think that Paul Rubin was one of the people who saw Vincent. Because obviously, when you make a short film, it's not going to get widely seen anyway. But
no, in fact, they didn't even go to festival. I mean, that and Frankenweenie, they really didn't. That was meant to be sort of a live action short, like they do those like weird nature shorts to put with an animated film, because the animated films are short. So it was something where, but then I got to do it, which was incredible. I had a great cast. It was also like making a movie. I got to use all the old Frankenstein equipment. It was really fun. And I was proud of it. But they got afraid of it, so both those films never got released. But they were kind of, like you said, sort of calling cards, and so Warner Brothers and then Paul Rubin saw it, and that helped me to get that job.
And obviously, the Disney work kind of fizzled out, but then Warner's, I'm facing fizzled out in a kind of polite way.
I've been hired and fired about 5 times there, don't worry.
But so on the back of, obviously Paul Rubin was making obviously Pee-wee's Playhouse, which is not as well known over here, but was a massive show in the States. And this was the first film, The Big Adventure, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And did you know his stuff already?
Yeah, I don't know where I'd seen him on stage once. I didn't know where the movie The Playhouse sort of came in timing wise, but yeah, I knew who he was, and I felt I liked the character, and so it was quite an easy sort of relationship, because he trusted me. I think he saw something in me which was very nice, and I just wanted to help support the character. So I think it was a good collaboration.
And also like a collaboration with Danny Elfman and
Yeah, I mean, same with Paul. like I used to go see Danny's, in clubs, like before when I was a
Boingo.
student, yeah, and so it was so strange many years later to actually be making films and ask him to do a film. So, it was my first film, his first film, basically. So, it was quite amazing to see somebody you used to go see in a nightclub, perform, have music with a full orchestra. And those were the days when we have a full orchestra and they project the film behind, so instead of doing it on video. So it was a really kind of a beautiful, emotional part of making the film.
We're going to play our first clip, which is from Pee-wee's Big Adventure, which is ostensibly a live-action film, but does have a particular moment which we're going to watch now with Large Marge. For those of you who are familiar with the film, can we watch the first clip, please?
That's what you call groundbreaking animation.
But actually, for something that is so quick, there's a lot of stuff going on there. I don't know how long that took to make.
In a short period of time, it was pretty quick, that one.
But
some of these shots and more of these kind of movies take you like several seconds in a week. That was a few hours probably.
but you knew that you wanted to use some animation in the film.
Yeah, it's just my back. I'd never made really a film, so my background was animation, so I couldn't help but. It's what I knew, the great thing about animation is like film. At CalArts, you would compose the shot, you'd storyboard it, you'd animate it, you'd shoot it, you'd edit it. So you had the sort of the full kind of filmmaking background when you're doing your animations.
And you've published, or there has been a book published of your kind of napkin drawings. And is that right? Is that something that are you constantly like just doodling?
Well,
and drawing?
yeah, I don't have as much, but I used to have a lot more free time, so I could just draw in bars and things. But I do like, I always felt like that for me was like a therapy and it's sort of a way of communicating and a way of getting ideas out. So for me, it's always been an important part of myself.
And part of the purpose of this is to sort of have a kind of career conversation, but through the kind of animation lens. And your film Beetlejuice, which obviously came out in 1988, not that long after, in comparative terms, after Pee-wee, it's a big piece, isn't it, in terms of star power and
what?
Also in terms of the star power and the look and feel of the film.
Well, it was still pretty low budget for the times, and look at it, it's pretty low budget, but it was fun. Again, I used lots of different techniques, and it was before a lot of computer technology came into play, but it suited the film. You always try to find technology that suits the sort of what you're doing. Sometimes it's computer, sometimes it's animation, makeup, effects, whatever. You try to match what's appropriate.
What was your thinking behind the sandworm in Beetlejuice in terms of? That's a lovely bit of stop motion. Well, no, I meant in terms of like the decision to go down the stop motion route with it.
Because again, it just. What you're inspired by, you usually, there's something that you like doing it, you know what I mean? So when appropriate, you don't just do it just to do it, but for me, it felt appropriate. And again, growing up with like the Harryhausen monsters or other people's monsters, Jim Danforth, other animators that would do stop motion monsters always had, just go right into your DNA.
And were they the people who did that stop motion bit of work, and were they people who you already knew?
No, but I knew Doug Bestwick. I knew who he was. Again, stop motion was at that time was never really a big, small world. And in fact, you'd usually just see it in little snippets, shot here, shot there, and like.
In fact, there were times when we're talking about some of the later on films where actually, you're making your film in 3 mills. There's another group of people over in Portland, Oregon, and another group in Bristol, and they've pretty much got the entire industry between the 3 sets.
Well, yeah, it's it's a rarefied. That's what happened. Like say on Nightmare, it was. I conceived it. And it took 10 years to get made because I wanted to make it in stop motion, and nobody didn't want to make it in stop motion.
Right. So
make it as a
guess
drawing,
they were embracing
do this,
CGI
do that.
at that
So
point.
they really did not want to do that at all until I had a few successes, and then it was okay. But up until that point, no way.
So we're gonna play the sandworm sequence from Beetlejuice. Let's put Don clip 2, please.
Hang on to your seats.
So that is proper old school stop motion animation.
State of the art for 1988.
And I mean,
Not really.
it's getting towards a moment where actually CG suddenly kind of, sort of started to really take over, particularly in the States.
Yeah. I don't know exact date, but yes, it was starting to creep in there, yeah.
So when you then went to make Beetlejuice, which obviously came out last year, the sandworm makes a reappearance, but can you tell us about your thinking about what technology you would embrace to bring it back?
The same. I mean, you're not going to see much difference. I mean, it's like...
Well, should we do that?
You're not going to go... Go ahead.
Should we do that first, then we'll come back?
Yeah, because you're not going to go like, oh my God, technology has changed so much since...
So now 2024, Beetlejuice, our third clip.
Things have really changed, haven't they?
If only you'd spoken to Denis Villeneuve before June.
No.
His sandworms would have been quite different.
Yeah, well...
So obviously...
You had a nice popcorn bucket, though, which was nice.
So a nice kind of homage, though, to the original film by having the sandworm.
Well, again, it's just any time that's appropriate, I would do stop motion. Like I said, I don't do it just to do it, but it's a meaning that I just love. So it's
one of the real kind of unsung heroes, I think, in stop motion is McKinnon and Saunders, who are based up in Manchester. I know there's a couple of guys here today who work at McKinnon and Saunders with us.
They've done some beautiful, beautiful work.
And they make some of the puppets. Like,
Did
they make the sandworm for the second?
Yeah.
And they obviously made the puppets for Corpse Bride.
Yeah, and also Frankenweenie, and and they did stuff for the Wednesday thing. So I mean, they're great. And again, anytime I can, which is not very often, I try to go up there. And I mean, you never, again, these places, their studio is just so home, you never know, but it's just people making beautiful bits of artwork, that to me, when you peel off the skin, you look at the skeletons and you look at the techniques of the building of everything. It's inspiring, as an artist, it gives you lots of inspiration just seeing what they do.
And I know that it's not you making the puppets yourself, but just for the benefit of the audience, these are like, just in the way that Ray used to, like they're metal armatures. Which are then,
I mean, if you take it's like a skeleton. It works like a whatever kind of animal skeleton, dogs, human, whatever, and we get into it later. But the puppets, for Corpse Bride, were the most sophisticated I've seen. In fact, some people thought it was like computer animated. That was the interesting thing because the technique of like moving the mouths and things were just like you put a thing in the ear and move the mouth one frame at a time. So it was quite mind-boggling, sophisticated.
Well, I guess with Beetlejuice and with Nightmare Before Christmas, they've got that very kind of tactile imperfection. If you
I have some at home, and sometimes you just go by and you just touch them and. I don't want to ruin them, but move them. There's something. Yeah, you get energy just by taking it and moving it a little bit. There's something really like a strange sort of energy kind of thing moving them.
And I guess, well, as you say, the Corpse Bride puppets are beautiful. There is a sort of slickness about them, the way that you can make the mouths move and the way that they can walk.
Yeah.
That actually, I guess, I can imagine why some people might have thought that. It's a massive compliment in a way.
Well, it is. I mean, it is. But for me, I kind of like, well, I know you guys. People put a lot. People put a lot of any kind. It doesn't matter if you're drawing or doing computer or. I mean, they're all beautiful forms and all valid. So I don't have, I love all forms. I've used all forms of animation. So it's not that I love particularly stop motion, but I've had fun dealing with drawn animation and dealing with computer animation. Some great things.
And actually, I mean, this kind of fusion of, like Disney, since like Beauty and the Beast and stuff, have been using CGI with the kind of hand-drawn stuff.
Yeah.
And, it's not like these are new. But I wonder where do you stand on? Obviously, the next stage now is things are moving more down the kind of AI kind of direction. Where do you stand in terms of AI animation?
I don't know. I don't quite understand it. I mean, honestly, I don't really. I mean, all I know is when AI did versions of like my designs, like me doing characters, like Disney characters, and that was quite terrifying to see AI do you. You know what I mean? So that, but I don't know. It's like any technology used for good or evil. I don't know. But there might be some benefits, but taking out the human element is, I think you can still tell, and I think that's thank goodness you can tell.
And Nightmare Before Christmas, or Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas, as it was released, was directed by Henry Selick, but your kind of handprint is over pretty much every cell in that film.
Well, it's something I designed in like 1982 and had it fully, I tried to get it done for 10 years. And it was only I had some success. And in fact, Disney didn't know they owned it. So I think I almost thought like, well, I'm just going to take it out and they will never even know.
They would. They'd find out eventually, wouldn't they? They'd
Maybe.
rattle that bottom drawer.
Maybe. Although at the time, well, who knows? So
this is around the Batman success time.
So after a few successes, then they said yes. And so, like I said, I'd held out for stop motion. And so luckily, there was not much there's no stop motion really going on. I knew Henry and I knew there's a group of people that, because there wasn't a lot going on, maybe for commercials and things like that.
It was properly groundbreaking as well.
Yeah, so it felt a very special time, that movie for me.
And as I said, in terms of stop motion at that time, it was a time when there wasn't an awful lot going on, and for a project anyway, but a project of this scale, it felt very groundbreaking, and the fact that you could make something of that length and really keep people interested.
Yeah, well, it was a strange production because it didn't have a normal way of making it as a movie. There was a script, but actually the first part of the script was me and Danny. We just sort of worked out my outline and sort of took and made the story through the music in a way. So it was a very strange. It was almost like in the old days when you hear about them making an animation movie. The story department, everybody kind of chips in and kind of, oh, this and that and the other thing. So it doesn't have a normal sort of way that a lot of mainly live action films kind of come to life.
And there's quite a rich cast of characters in the film. Were they all sketched by you first? Were they all?
Yeah, there's a few side characters, but I took a lot of things that weren't even meant for it. That were just other things and kind of pulled it all together. So
that's still then from the artist's point of view and the animators to then take those sketches and make them something three-dimensional.
Oh yeah, but it was a beautiful, amazing. The great thing about stop motion or I won't say stop motion, any form of animation, is a lot of talented people. A lot of people contribute. Somebody will take a sketch that I would do and turn it into something dimensional and something that actually, like for instance, I think Jack ended up being a little bit slightly different because my drawings were very, very thin and things. So, you work back and forth like, well, this is technically possible. This isn't technically, we need to make this a little thicker. Okay, then we need to make that a little longer. That kind of back and forth that goes on along with actually bringing something into the third dimension and making it an actual puppet.
And so this was I think it was San Francisco, was it? Like the warehouse that became the studio. And Henry has the director's credit, but you're still. Were you still going to the set and being part of it when they were making it?
Yeah, but it's a very long, and on every film, Frankenweenie or Corpse Bride, the animators are working with, and it's a very isolating thing. So it's very set up. There's not a lot of surprises that go on. You have a storyboard, you time it out, you do it. The animators go, and they could be working for a week on a shot. You get a few seconds a week, or sometimes, if it's not a good week. So there was a quota, but so you don't sit over there. Last thing an animator wants you to do is like, hey, no, don't move it like that, move it like that. So you still have plenty of effect on it without, being there exactly every second.
And there's quite a few. I guess that's because of the size of the world you're talking about. Kind of Nightmare alumni who come back to kind of Corpse Bride, like Alison Abbate or Mike Johnson, and I think Joe Ranft was on Nightmare, wasn't he? Because he went obviously to be huge in Pixar.
And he kind of came back a little bit to help with this. So he was he was at CalArts, and he was a very talented person. So he was very helpful on Corpse Bride and had the same kind of vibe.
And just in terms of, you talked about how long it took to get the project made, and I guess it was quite a risky project to make because there was, in 1993, people were thinking much more around it.
The biggest note, I go like, you can't have the main character that has no eyes. I go, well, skeleton, I'm sorry, whatever. There were a lot of strange.
But it's also one of those films that has just continued to deliver. It's just like it's important.
It started out as a touchstone picture.
Yeah, that's right. Because it wasn't Disney, so
it was a PG. Even though they want to make it, they didn't really want to. It took a while. It took a while
So Touchstone was the part of Disney where they didn't want to sort of sully the Disney name.
Exactly.
And they created Touchstone to make films like
Strangely
Splash.
enough, it's like a gravestone. So already you're in bad shape. You know, it's like my film's going right to the graveyard. You know.
But actually, I mean, God, in terms of merchandise in that film alone, over the years, it's just got bigger and bigger.
Well,
And
that was another
it's like a juggernaut, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but it started out like. Because Disney's usually great with, you know, that's what they do, merchandise, right? But they did the worst merchandise. So luckily there was this company in Japan, because they kept going, no, we can't do it. The arms are too thin. We can't do this. We don't have, blah, blah, blah. Got no eyes, blah, 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 all that stuff. And so this company in Japan just did the most beautiful, like, merchandise. And all of a sudden, oh, you can do that, you know? But even that took a while, you know, all that stuff.
Well, I guess it's now a very significant part of their bottom line, because you've got not just Halloween, you've got Halloween and Christmas. They've got 2 holidays,
Two for the price of
extra
one.
money.
Thrown in Thanksgiving, and we could have had a real bit. A little bit of that.
Film number 2. So this is like, obviously, it's kind of perfection in terms of like the designs, the color palette, the music, everything comes together kind of magically in this film.
It was, you know, and that's the beautiful thing. I mean, we all felt special about making, but you never know. You have no idea what it's going to be like. And also, too, it took a few years for it to sort of achieve a little bit of, you know, people watching it.
We're going to play a clip now from Nightmare Before Christmas. Depending on whether you're a Halloween or Christmas fan, you can be either, and that's fine. But this will get you into the mood for one or both of those seasons now. So let's watch the next clip, please. Every Christmas we play that film, and if you don't come to that every Christmas at BFI, there's something not quite right, because it's part of Christmas's Bing Crosby and something else Christmas.
Well, I mean, I grew up watching on TV the Rankin and Bass Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and as a child, that's what I wanted to. Part of the wanted to create this was that had such an impact. From as a child to as an adult, I'd always wait for that. Yeah, you know, it's Christmas. It was Rankin and Bass. Stop motion.
Frosty the Snowman.
Yeah, but some of them were drawn. But there's a couple of, like, Rudolph was stop motion. That was my favorite.
And the reason I thought this clip, as well as obviously having a great song that I've been humming, it's a bit of an earworm song, but is that there's so much going on. There's so many different characters in that scene, in that one very small moment. It's about 2 minutes to play, but to animate tonight with all those different characters and the different things that they're doing and they're talking, you know.
That's why you'd only get a bit of footage. That's why you'd only get a bit of footage, you know, a week, because it's probably the most painstaking form of animation there is.
And I guess also even just things like working the set out in conjunction with how the puppets can manipulate.
Well, yeah, and you have to sort of keep them standing. You have to have. So there's, I'm impressed. You know, for me, I was always impressed.
And obviously, Leica now have got these big budgets, and they're making these huge kind of stop motion productions. But actually, you know, you've got Halloween Town and Christmas Town. You've got the big roulette wheel, which presumably is a huge set on there.
Yeah, I mean, they're pretty big. Like I said, since the day of the Ray Harryhausen, the puppets are about that big. Jack's probably about that big. Yeah.
Have you kept any of the puppets?
Yeah, I know.
Have you got a favourite?
No, but I have a few. I have a few at home. I've had a few in some exhibit kind of things, because it's nice to people to see them. I like when people can. I mean, you can't really touch them because they're quite fragile. But we try to protect them, because, like I told you, like when I saw Ray Harryhausen and stuff, because it's a thing with foam rubber and things, so they don't last very long. They're very hard to preserve.
And I guess the thing is, you've made scary and horrific things kind of beautiful. I mean, there was a real beauty to those figures and those characters, isn't there?
It really, really is. And I recommend anybody who can go to a stop motion set or see any of these puppets, you'll be inspired.
And we're not going to show a clip from Mars Attacks, but originally I think the plan for the Martians, and this was the first time I think you worked with McKinnon and Saunders, wasn't it? Was
Barry
they were stop motion. Barry Purvis.
He did some testing on it, and I would have done it, but it was a time issue. I mean, honestly, it was what it was, but that was what I wanted to do, but it would have taken a few years to make, and so we weren't ready for that one yet.
That would have been in the kind of Harryhausen.
Definitely. You know, Earth versus the Flying Saucers and that kind of thing, definitely.
So I'm really interested, because I don't think I've ever heard or seen you sort of talk about the Steinboy films. Obviously, some people will know about the book, the Death of Oyster Boy, and you're putting a face just makes
well,
it less
it's just funny because it was a very strange time. It was when the internet was first starting to do things, and so it was just a strange little experiment. You know what I mean? And I love, I never know if something could be. I loved experimenting with it. I love, like I said, I love stop motion, but it just was fun, sort of exploring this new little tiny strange little art form that didn't have any real.
This is flash animation.
Yeah.
So for those of the people who are not kind of, what is flash animation? How do?
Well, it's just, I don't know, because it doesn't really exist much anymore, does it?
No, but it was off the shelf sort of software you could use for animation. Democratized.
Animation it's almost like old analog kind of. It's like it's weird kind of technology that doesn't really kind of exist much anymore.
So was it your idea, or did somebody say, why don't you do this for the internet?
Or I think it was that sort of. I wasn't really, because I don't really know much about it, so I was just more of a little experiment for me.
And were you? I think it's Flint Studios.
Yeah.
Were you working with?
I mean, I go in. They're very simplistic and very what they are. So it was interesting because it didn't have like a linear kind of story. It was just very much more kind of random, which sometimes is what my mind is like, more random. So it suited that part of me.
So you have, there's a book, and actually there's a merchandise line of the melancholy story of Oyster Boy, and in Oyster Boy there's a number of different kind of characters. And this was Steinboy, and the conceit is every episode he's working for the Burbank Police.
Yes.
And he has to he's set a task every episode to go and hunt down one of these social misfits, of course, which he is one. And bring them back in.
I mean, if I had it to do over, I would do it in stop motion, because I do have these characters in dimensional form, which is, this I did just because it was a weird experiment. But again, if I did it now, I would use these other models.
Well, I hope it doesn't make you uncomfortable when we do this, but we are going to watch the first story, which is Stain Girl. Is it right? Is that right? Is it Stain Girl?
Staring Girl.
Which one? Oh, sorry, Staring Girl. Sorry, he's Stain Boy. This is Staring Girl, and this is the first one.
Yeah.
We've kind of cut the credits at the end of stuff to make it about a minute less.
How long is it?
It's about 3 minutes.
Oh, it's too long.
If you want to walk around the block and come back.
Okay, I'm going to make a phone call. You guys.
I guess the thing is, when you make something like that, which is for the internet, you don't get the opportunity to watch it with an audience.
No. In fact, I don't even think people watch it on the internet either. So whatever.
But are you pleased with the response?
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, look at it. It's so beautiful to be able to try the different things in different mediums, and that for me, I was always surprised to become either an animator or a director or anything. So just trying different things that's what gets my energies going.
And I guess one thing, which is the same for Stain Boy as it is for, the Corpse Bride, is that actually it's not just about the visuals. The sound is so important. I don't just mean the music, but like the actual sound design. The sound of a squelchy Wellington boot or whatever.
I mean, you ever seen those films where they show you like doing Foley and stuff, where they usually like smash a pumpkin or do whatever. It's again, that's part of the fun of making movies, is those kind of techniques that you do sound or
and are you actively thinking about that when you're making the film, about what the sound actually?
I think so. Sometimes when you're drawing, or even I don't know, as an animator, I don't animate much anymore, but as a drawing, you kind of make sounds when you're drawing sometimes. Just I don't know if it has to do with the drawing or you're just making sounds, but they do kind of go hand in hand sometimes.
And one of the things we talked a lot about at the stop motion season we did last year was about the fact that stop motion animators generally are kind of like actors in their own right, because they are, apart from the voice, which is going to a professional actor potentially, they're having to move all the limbs and how they walk and make those decisions about how is this character going to move from there to there and how are they going to do it. And you're acting it yourself, aren't you?
Yeah, well, I think all animators are, though. I mean, whether you're drawing or computer or stop motion, I think you're acting out the character. I mean, I remember doing Disney, watching the animators do the drawing stuff. They have mirrors and they would actually be acting as they're drawing as well. So, but it's true, doing that and moving it, you're putting some of your own energy and your old self and soul into what's moving around. So it's also then when you see it come to life, it's quite exciting, because it's like an animate object coming to life. And
when you're directing an actor who is in an animated film, do they normally have a visual that they can work with it, or are you
Yeah,
having to
I mean,
deliver that
yeah, they'll
yourself,
have a
or-
drawing or some kind of, we'll have a model, you know, so, usually, I mean, usually by that point, there'd be like a model and a few, like.
And a lot of the time, they're not necessarily acting against the people either.
No,
So that's
not, I mean, in my case, a couple of times, but usually not. I mean, there would be a few times when I'd have people in the room at the same time, but oftentimes whoever you can get, sometimes that's not, availabilities are, you know, an issue. So, so usually it's alone.
And when you were going into, say, Corpse Bride, did you have in your mind who you wanted to use for the different roles, or did you go through the normal casting process?
Well, no. I mean, honestly, I felt very lucky. It's like, if you just read that cast list, it's pretty incredible. So I was just very lucky. Everybody, you know, because it wasn't a big production, I got people, really great people. I mean, Albert Finney, Joanna Lumley. I mean, everybody that's on it, you know, Johnny, Helena, everybody, all these people. I mean, it's an incredible cast, and so they all just got you know, into the spirit of it, and just kind of came in and did it. So I felt very lucky to have that such a beautiful cast.
And this time it was at 3 Mills Studio, which has been used by Wes Anderson for Isle of Dogs, and he used it later for Frankenweenie. Not the most glamorous location when you look at it, but actually something quite magical happens inside there, doesn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, the thing is, but as you're saying, it's like, for live action, I've worked in studios. Like, I worked at Leavesden when it was still a warehouse. I worked at Gillette when it was a warehouse. So, and that's different because you need sound, and sometimes the sound in those warehouse places is not very good. But for stop motion, you don't need that. So you can kind of truly do it anywhere, you know, because as long as you have a big space, partition it off with black curtains and have enough spaces for the sets and things, you really can do it kind of anywhere.
And there is something kind of magical about those spaces. People haven't seen them. They're, as you say, vast warehouse scale spaces with lots of different curtained off bits. You literally unveil the curtain, and there's somebody there painstakingly on their own.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just moving a little puppet a tiny bit.
And you always feel like you're intruding because you are. You know, that's, you curtain back and some guys want to do this, and like, oh, fuck this. But, you know, it is a beautiful, and these animators are truly, I mean, I don't know, you kind of have to be a loner because it's like you're in a room all day or all night with your puppet. And sometimes people are like you see on Nightmare, sometimes there'll be scenes where it is like a classroom, or it is a bunch of people, or it is a bunch of skeletons in a bar room, whatever, and it's all happening at once.
We're going to watch a clip from The Corpse Bride. I know some of you are going to see the film later on at the IMAX, but we're going to play, hopefully not a particularly spoilery kind of clip. So can we play a clip from The Corpse Bride, please? I really loved what actually was probably quite a complicated scene to animate in terms of the fingers and the piano and corresponding and so forth. But there's a real simplicity, completely opposite of The Nightmare, where everything is happening all at once. And this is a very quiet piece, very emotional, and it also kind of backs up the whole thing around animation not just being for kids as well, doesn't it? That actually you can make something so beautiful from the heart.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, and each project, that's why animation is a beautiful medium, and like some things work better drawn, some things work maybe stop motion, some things work better in computer. And so you try to pick the medium that fits the story. You know, being an old folk tale just felt more like a stop motion.
And there's a proper kind of, there's like a sort of humanity almost, isn't it, that comes through the manipulation of those puppets to make what
I
we
do
see on
feel
the screen.
like you feel the animator's energy coming through.
You do, yeah.
I do.
And that's something, you know, when you look at, I don't know, if you compare Ray's Clash of the Titans with the later Clash of the Titans with CG, both accomplished in their own way, but and one looks really smooth, but the other one is a bit kind of, but that handmade feel wins every time.
Absolutely, but and also with Ray Harris's work, even in Monster, it was just a monster. You felt the humanity in it, you know, and more than just the moving. I think there's something about you felt an artist at work there, and that's a beautiful thing to recognize.
Yeah, every movement is a bit of him on screen.
Yeah,
which is incredible. So we touched on the fact that there's sort of, you've got the sort of nearer, the sort of imperfection, I guess, from Nightmare Before Christmas, and this being a lot kind of sort of slicker, but it probably works well for this kind of project anyway, doesn't it?
Well, I think very proud of it. And also, too, it's amazing because, like even all the fabric, like her veil and things was animated. A lot of times people kind of cheat a little bit. They throw in like, oh, we got fabric, so we'll do that. We'll do stop motion, but we'll do fabric be, computer or something like that. But this was all, and that's what I was impressed by, the flowing nature of the clothing, the veils that came through in this, which was all, again, animated.
And I guess one of the conversations we've often had here as well in this space is about the fact that perhaps in the industry, perhaps to the audiences as well, but certainly in the industry, there is almost a sort of sniffiness about animation versus live action. Oh, you're an animation director, as opposed to
but I think that's changed. Obviously, I mean, I think that was very, very true.
But obviously, you're still using you're still having cinematographer. You're still the costumes are all being designed and fitted as they would do with live action.
The DP works like a DP. It's like you're photographing it, you're lighting it. You got the light. It's like making a very slow motion live action film.
And very recently, you directed the Lady Gaga video, The Dead Dance, which feels like, in a very small way, kind of companion piece to this, in a way.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, that happened in like few days. So, I mean, I really enjoyed that because I got to shoot on a strange little doll island in Mexico, which I'd been to many years ago. And so we just sort of did it very quickly. And so there was a spontaneity about it, which I really loved.
And so in the Lady Gaga video, when like the case like the doll's eyes will move, or there'll be a bit of movement, is that stop motion or is that CG?
No, it's a bit of CG. I mean, it's just literally we did this in a few days, so didn't have time for the stop motion. I was going to do it, but it was okay because it worked for what it was.
But it's interesting because you've done a few, like you did the Killers music video, which is a real kind of homage to Jason the Argonauts, isn't it? With the skeletons.
Yeah.
I mean, are they quite those really small projects? Are they quite fun to work on?
Yeah, they are. I've only done a couple of videos, but I've enjoyed them, especially when like the artists that you're working with.
You've also kind of supported other filmmakers' visions. I mean, obviously Henry Selick did James and the Giant Peach, and you had a hand in that. And I'm thinking about the film 9, which you have a producer credit on, and I don't know how involved actually you were.
Well, no, I mean it was like Shane who he had a short film, and I was impressed by it because it felt like stop motion, even though it wasn't stop motion. And so I just thought he had a vision, and I thought, well, unless it was something like Nightmare for me, which is my kind of thing, I always like to let people do their, it's like they're artists, and I'm not going to tell them what to do.
But they were bouncing ideas off you, weren't they?
But also but Shane did his, it's got an interesting look. And it kind of looks like stop motion, but he did it in a technique that did the short film with.
So you would be a sort of like a sounding board, and then you would help kind of promote it when it comes out.
A little bit. I would just try to be there if they needed me. I try to help, basically as a human shield against the studios.
I feel as if not enough people have seen 9. So I mean, even though I know it's not a film you directed, I'm going to put a clip on.
It's interesting.
We're going to play the next clip now, please, from the film 9. Left it on a nice cliffhanger moment there.
Yeah, no, I mean it's interesting because you can see how it kind of has a stop motion vibe to it. But
it does. So as you say, it has a feel of stop motion, but it is CG. Yeah. You've even got some sort of scissor hands in there.
That was just. I think it was already there.
So an observation, if you don't mind my making, is that when we've been playing your clips, you've not been watching the screen very much, but during that one you were quite happy to.
I haven't seen that one in a while. I mean,
is that because you don't like to revisit your work, or?
No, I do. I'm very proud of all of that. I do like it. I just was taking.
You're just very familiar, but you're very familiar with it.
I was taking a moment to reflect on. Yeah. That was good.
And I'd be interested to know from the audience point of view if you could put your hand up if you've not seen the film 9 before. So, that's an awful lot, isn't it? So, I mean, I feel as if that's one that definitely is right for rediscovery.
It's kind of happened early in my career, too. I mean, like, it was the same with Nightmare, to be honest. Like, first year it came out, it wasn't really seen, it wasn't that big of a thing, you know what I mean? So these kind of things that don't go into a category sometimes struggle.
And you can't predict what is going to be tomorrow's cult film,
can you?
No. I feel like 9 is one of those films that may have those legs.
There's some really beautiful things about it.
So you made the live action kind of Frankenweenie in your kind of earlier Disney days, and obviously Frankenstein and the kind of whole universal sort of horror sort of genre, if you like, has been a massive influence on a lot of people. But I guess that was the same for you, was it?
Yeah, of course. So, I felt for me, because my drawings are my drawings, so I didn't feel like, well, I want to just remake this. But for me, going back to the drawing style and adding new characters and new monsters and new sort of things, it just made it feel very new for me.
And did you kind of rewatch the live action film, your original short, to sort of, or was this a completely new imagining it stop motion?
Yeah. I didn't look at it again, really.
And this is obviously you directed this without, whereas before you had like Mike Johnson or Henry. So this is when you kind of directed solely yourself.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's a big team that going to make it.
Absolutely.
I wonder whether going to this one, is there much that you had learned from those previous experiences you could take through for it?
Absolutely. I mean, look, it's all learning experiences. And like I said, the thing I learned from from Nightmare and things is that it's a long process. And so, like me, I'm quite hyper, and if I'm sitting around, I'd just be driving everybody nuts. So for me, I could affect everything I needed to affect because you storyboard it, shoot the storyboard, plan it, and then you let the animators go do it. So it's a very longer, much.
Is that why you're not the right person to be the animator ultimately?
Yeah,
You'd have to stay
absolutely.
still
I mean, that's why I admire them so much. It's like I'd be going through the ceiling. These guys are incredibly, composed, focused, and be able to take a lot of different things in their mind into one thing.
And you made this decision, obviously, to make it black and white, which obviously works very well in the kind of James Whale kind of old.
Yeah. Studio hates that. They don't like anything I do, really. I mean, it's like they really didn't like that at all. They go like, well, why don't you shoot in color and then we turn? No. So it's important because I've done it a few times where I've shot something in black and white, and it needs to be in black and white, and whether they like it or not.
Okay, we're gonna watch a fine, quite emotional clip from Frankenweenie now. Before we talk a bit further about that, can we play the next clip, please? What could possibly go wrong? Boy reunited with his dog.
Yeah. We've all had a dead dog, so this for me was something
Was that
it was always, I always thought, I love Frankenstein, and I felt very emotional about my certain dogs I've had.
I feel really emotional watching. As I get older, I get more and more in tune with pets and dogs.
That's why I can't watch a movie on an airplane, no matter what it is. I don't know why.
As soon as the dog appears in a horror movie, you know it's never going to end well, don't you? Yeah.
At the end of the Meg, the little dog comes out of the water. You haven't seen the Meg. Okay.
Yeah, no, it doesn't matter how much the Meg inflicts on human beings, but it's a little dog. Yeah. It's always the way. And that's, I guess that's part of the thing. I mean, Frankenweenie works on different levels. It works on the universal kind of monster level, but everybody can feel that
it was fun to do different monsters and different kids and characters. So it made it feel different for me than the live action.
And when you've made, because obviously you're making live action films sometimes simultaneously. But is there something about animation that makes you want to keep going back?
Oh, definitely. No, I mean, definitely. It's a beautiful, like I said, even if I was working on something else, you might go like, oh, it's too many things to work on. It would give me energy and inspiration. So I could be doing live action and then go deal with almost a week's work of an animated film.
I guess because the amount of time it takes and the amount of time and investment, sometimes people are like, never again.
On a live action, you're constantly doing this. You plan it and you do it, and then let the animators do it. And so therefore, you have time to, not for them. Theirs is the pressure, the animators on that.
Do you approach live action films in the same way in terms of like storyboarding and all that kind of stuff?
Not as much. I used to, and sometimes I do for things that need to be storyboarded. But I find that when you're dealing with actors and things, it's you can't overly go by a storyboard. I've learned, because I worked with a lot of people that are good at improv and things, so you find that you need to be a bit more be a bit more open and not so like, okay, just put your foot here, put your arm there.
And it can't have passed anybody by that recently, at the same time as making Beetlejuice, and that suddenly Wednesday has become a kind of phenomenon on Netflix, and season 2 landed quite recently. And one of the things you decided to do in season 2 is to bring in a nice stop motion moment. I wonder if you could tell us about that. And
Well, I mean,
obviously
it was,
it's McKinnon and Saunders
yeah,
again.
yeah. I mean, it was just something that it's a spoken story, so it's just like a little folk tale that's being told in a bunch of kids at night by the fire. So it just felt like, and the interesting thing about that, and I said to McKinnon and Saunders, like, because they're so good at it, and we were doing things that it was just too slick. So I really went back to, in fact, I did my own sculpture of the head and put wire in it just to try to show, so just make it like students made it for no money, and using found things and just
because they use found things for the
yeah.
actual
So it was
end
important to go. So strangely enough, it struggled to kind of go back to something that's much more crude and simple because they're so good at making
because it
great
looks so
things.
beautiful, doesn't it?
So, exactly. So it just, and we didn't have as much money as you do on a film either. So in other words, it was again, it seemed appropriate for what the story was.
But still, for the sake of 2 minutes of animation, when I guess that live action terms, that would have been something you could have done many more minutes. I mean,
or it would have cost a lot more money. I mean, you couldn't have shot it live action.
Oh, sorry, no, I meant in terms of it's a live action show, and that 2 minutes of stop motion animation, which you've included in there, is so timely and so beautifully made that I guess from a cost point of view and a time point of view, you've kind of made your work more difficult for yourself.
Well, yes and no, because like I said, it was like for instance, if let's say we wanted to shoot that little story
as it was,
as a live action thing, you couldn't have done it.
No.
So in other words, it was more cost effective to do it as a little stop motion piece.
Or you could have just had somebody in a room reading it out and
yeah, well, I did that,
but you didn't, and thank goodness you didn't, because
again, it's anytime I can, I always like to go back to it.
And we're gonna watch it now because it's such a beautiful moment. So can we watch our final clip, which is the Tale of the Skull Tree from Wednesday? I'm so pleased that this conversation is happening now, because we obviously have the opportunity to do that and the Lady Gaga, talk about Lady Gaga video as well, because these are obviously both very, very new developments. And I think it gives us hope that animation is going to continue to feature in your work moving forward.
Definitely. I mean, always trying to work on something. I just want to be the right thing, and I'm always reluctant to talk about it because I've had projects I talk about too soon don't happen. So but there's definitely things in the works that I'm really interested in.
Is there any newer stuff that is inspiring you at the moment in animation terms?
I don't know. I haven't seen much lately, but I know there's things that's, I love all forms of anime, like I said. So for me, it doesn't matter if it's drawn or computer or stop motion. I think when you feel the right medium with the right story or vibe, it's always great. Well, I mean, I was a big Dr. Seuss fan, and I liked Edward Gorey, I think, because that's, you could pick to him as well. Those are the ones that come to mind. I mean, you try to draw your inspiration from lots of different things, but I think some of those things were always, some of like the Edgar Allan Poe stuff of Arthur Rackham. There's certain artists that had sort of a beautiful kind of line to them. Well, it's a funny question, because one thing sort of that I do feel, and I have to say this, whether it's animation or live action, because I'm not a great communicator, for me, I always have to feel the character. So I actually try to feel each one, you know what I mean? So I could be any one of those people or creatures or whatever, because that's my only way of communicating with somebody, is to feel it. So, I'm not to intellectualize things. For me, it's like, so I could be any one of those, because it's important to me to feel that.
Were you a bit Vincent Malloy in your youth?
Oh, of course. Well, I mean, that was my, in fact, when my mother saw it, she said to me, "It's a shame you didn't have a worse childhood." No. It's not, none of it's done in post.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, no. In fact, like it was with Corpse Bride when we did the color, we went for the Dario Argento, Mario Bava color scheme, and for the song. So, as Justin said, we you treat it like a live action film. So even when you're doing like water reflection stuff, we would do that old fashioned thing just against broken glass and just get reflections that way. So, that's part of the beauty of it. So all the color schemes are pretty much as shot.
Yeah, that crispness of the black against the brightness of the white and it's amazing that's not done in post.
No, and that's what's beautiful. I mean, that's what I'm so happy about this print, the new Corpse Bride print, because you really see the work of the artist. You feel the textures, you feel the light, you feel the sets, and so that's what I love about these new prints. You really get the clarity of what the artists were dealing with and creating. No, because I don't live by the normal rules of law. No. I things just come up. Do you know what I mean? I'm kind of distracted and have different things going on, but I think it's important as an artist. You always try to just have a little bit of time just to think and to look at the clouds or do whatever, And I think no matter how busy you get, it's always important to have that little bit of time to just breathe and look at something from a different point of view.
It's kept a lot of us up nights.
Okay, well, see, for me, the whole point was I love that time of year. I love Halloween and I love Christmas. So that was it. I mean, so for me, so it's not a Thanksgiving movie, even though there's a slight bit in there. It's truly both, and I don't think that's not a cop out. It's the truth of it. That was the whole point of it.
Right,
it's like I truly love both, and so that was it. I don't have a favorite that way. Well, because I had a dead dog, I mean, and emotion. Certain dog, not every animal that you have. Certain animals, it's such an emotional attachment. It's such a sort of powerful, like right to your heart. And so I was inspired by the fact that I had a dog that died, and so in liking Frankenstein and loving those kind of movies, I thought, well, combine the two. Bring your dog back to life, and so, yeah, it was just a combination of love of those kind of films and that emotional kind of time thing that happened to you. Yeah, well, it's interesting. Well, again, like say on Nightmare, I mean, Danny, we worked on the music before, I mean, all this has to happen before, but that helps shape the story, then it helps shapes the design, it helps shape the movement of the characters. So it's great. And I've done it on live action too, where I've had music, where you're playing music on the set, and it's like making a silent movie. It's quite fun, you know what I mean? I think when it works and when you can do that, it really becomes a character and it really helps shape scenes and performances. And so they're both valid. I mean, on an animated thing, it doesn't really work that way because basically animators are timing it to the music, and when you're doing live action, they're kind of opposite. They're acting to the music. I did work at a restaurant once. Yeah.
Filmmaking's game was
no, but I mean,
taking
no,
off.
but I mean, the thing is, I lucked into directing. I didn't know what I was going to be. I didn't know, I liked drawing, and then I luckily got into animation, and then I luckily got into design work, and then luckily got into directing. So my journey is a very, people ask how did it happen, I don't even know myself. So I feel quite lucky that it happened the way it did. But you know, I think any artist, it's always good to try different things. You know, never put all your thing into one. So if you like to draw, then maybe write, do it. Just try different things.
You were talking about your mum before. Would she have been surprised at the direction your career went in?
Yeah, I'm sure she's surprised that yeah. Well, you know, I'm multi. I think it's important to you almost do whatever you're doing, you kind of make your own playlist, you know, whether you use it in film or not. But I think it's always inspirational and stuff. You know, I don't have any one type of music. I honestly, any project you do, like I said, you might, if you're doing something, you'll make your own playlist. And whether you use it in the film or you don't, it can be inspiring.
Are you going to share your Spotify with us anytime soon?
Okay, perfect way to finish. I just want to say, first of all, for this evening's event, I just want to thank our friends at Warner Brothers and Park Circus, 42 West, Natalia Testa and Thea Black for their help. They've all been brilliant. But a huge, huge thank you to BFI Fellow Tim Burton.